Chapter 1. The Unexpected Purchase. Orion Vex was a man who trusted the stars more than he trusted people. A salvage pilot drifting on the fringe of civilized space, his life was one of solitude punctuated by the mechanical hum of his battered ship, the Wraith Runner. The endless void had become his home, where the cold silence of space echoed the hollowness he'd felt since the day he'd left behind a past too complicated to untangle. His only companions were the wrecks he scavenged from forgotten battles and the flickering hollow messages from distant contacts, all fleeting and impersonal. Yet, deep beneath his rough exterior, beneath the layers of cynicism and weariness, there was an unspoken ache, a longing for connection, for warmth, for something or someone who would remind him that he wasn't alone in the universe. It was during one such routine stop at Zephyr Station a sprawling, neon-drenched trading hub perched precariously in the Andromeda trade loop that fate tilted Orion's world on its axis. The station was a swirling vortex of alien languages, pulsing advertisements, and the chaotic ballet of merchants hawking everything from outlawed weaponry to cybernetic pets. The place had a smell, a mixture of ozone, exotic spices, and the metallic tang of raw desperation that clung to the air. To Orion, it was a place of business, of survival, where credits were hard-earned and trust was a currency even rarer than the precious minerals he sought among the derelicts. On this particular night, the station's underbelly thrummed with the anticipation of an auction unlike any other. The venue was a nondescript warehouse tucked away in the station's shadowy industrial sector, lit only by dim, flickering lights and the occasional burst of static from antiquated speakers. The gathered crowd was a motley assembly of traders, mercenaries, and curious onlookers, all drawn by whispers of an unusual offering. An alien companion, genetically enhanced, bonded for loyalty, and promised to be the ideal partner for anyone brave or desperate enough to claim her. The words, "perfect companion," were tossed around casually, but Orion heard a deeper promise hidden beneath the sales pitch: companionship not just of the body, but of the mind and spirit, something he hadn't realized he'd been searching for in the vast emptiness of space. When Lyra was brought forth, the room seemed to hush. She was unlike any being Orion had ever seen, tall and lithe, her skin a radiant shade of violet that shimmered subtly as if dusted with stardust. Her eyes, large and glowing with a gentle luminescence, held depths of wisdom and a warmth that seemed to cut through the thick haze of distrust surrounding the auction. Her movements were graceful yet deliberate, a dance between innate strength and quiet elegance. Lyra's origin was cloaked in mystery, whispered to be from a distant, near-mythical planet called Illyria, a world rumored to be a cradle of ancient knowledge and empathic beings. She was a marvel of bioengineering and cultural heritage, a fusion of advanced technology and living art, crafted to be both protector and confidant. Orion watched her with a mixture of skepticism and something he dared not name hope. The auctioneer's voice was a low rumble, slicing through the tension as bids climbed steadily, each one a test of desire and resolve. When the moment came, and Orion impulsively raised his hand to offer his credits, a wave of surprise rippled through the crowd. He was an outsider, a scrappy pilot with no wealth or pedigree, yet somehow, in that instant, he became the owner of Lyra. The transaction was swift, and as the crowd dispersed, leaving him alone with his new companion, Orion felt an unexpected stirring in his chest, a flicker of anticipation that the cold void might soon hold a spark of something new. Back aboard the Wraith Runner, under the soft hum of recycled air and the distant glow of passing stars, Lyra awakened fully to her new environment. Her eyes adjusted to the dim lighting, and she regarded Orion with a mixture of curiosity and calm understanding. Unlike anything Orion had expected from a purchased companion, she greeted him not with robotic servitude, but with genuine warmth and a smile that reached her glowing eyes. Her voice, when she spoke, was melodic and soothing, carrying a cadence that hinted at countless stories untold. "I am pleased to be with you, Orion," she said simply, her words filling the silence with a strange comfort. Orion, who had spent years guarding his heart behind layers of cynicism, found himself unprepared for the connection blossoming in that small, cramped cockpit. Lyra was not just an asset or a tool. She was a being of depth and emotion, with desires and dreams that transcended the transactional nature of their meeting. She asked questions not just about the ship or their route, but about him, about the quiet spaces in his life that no one had dared to enter. Slowly, walls built by years of solitude began to crumble, revealing a man yearning for trust and belonging. Days turned into weeks as they journeyed through star systems, exploring forgotten wrecks and trading in far-flung ports. Lyra's presence transformed the Wraith Runner from a lonely vessel into a home. She was an expert in diplomacy, capable of navigating the complexities of alien cultures with grace. Her intuitive empathy allowed her to sense the subtle shifts in Orion's moods and the unspoken tensions that arose in their travels. Together, they faced dangers, both external pirate attacks, system malfunctions, and treacherous terrain, and internal, wrestling with past traumas and the fragile threads of newfound companionship. What surprised Orion most was Lyra's genuine happiness. Despite her origins as a purchased companion, she radiated a joy and fulfillment that defied expectations. She reveled in the freedom of space travel, in the simple pleasures of shared meals, starlit conversations, and quiet moments of understanding. Her laughter, light and infectious, became the soundtrack of their days, dispelling the shadows that had long lingered in Orion's heart. Where he had anticipated a cold, calculated partnership, he found instead a vibrant soul whose happiness was intertwined with their shared journey. Lyra, for her part, embraced her new life not as a possession but as a choice, a chance to redefine her purpose beyond programmed roles and societal expectations. She taught Orion to see the universe through eyes unclouded by fear, to embrace vulnerability as a strength, and to cherish the unpredictable beauty of connection. In the vastness of space, amid stars both distant and near, they forged a bond that transcended origin or circumstance, a partnership rooted in respect, affection, and the profound joy of being truly seen. As the Wraith Runner charted a course toward uncharted horizons, Orion realized that his impulsive purchase had become the most unexpected and treasured discovery of his life. In Lyra, he had found not just a companion, but a happiness that illuminated the endless night, a testament to the power of chance, choice, and the enduring human and alien capacity for love. The first moments after the auction felt surreal. Orion barely knew what to expect from owning an alien companion. Most pilots like him dealt in scrap metal, cargo, and sometimes illegal tech, but companionship was a luxury he had never afforded himself. Yet here, in the cramped corridors of the Wraith Runner, Lyra stood with a quiet grace, her violet skin softly glowing in the dim light, her eyes flickering with an almost human warmth that unsettled him in the best way possible. She didn't speak much at first, but her presence filled the cabin in a way no machine or holographic assistant ever had. There was an unexpected calmness to her and ease that invited trust rather than demanded obedience. Orion spent hours just watching her, wondering how someone so seemingly delicate could emanate such strength. He remembered the auctioneer's words: genetically enhanced, emotionally attuned, and bonded for loyalty. But loyalty wasn't a commodity. It was a bond born of trust, and Orion realized that he had only just begun to understand what that truly meant. Lyra's movements were fluid and purposeful, every gesture hinting at a history far beyond the confines of this tiny ship. When she finally spoke, her voice was soft but clear, with a melodic cadence that felt like a balm to his frayed nerves. "I am glad to be with you," she said simply, the words carrying a sincerity that surprised him. "Your ship, it feels like a home." Orion cleared his throat, feeling the unfamiliar stir of awkwardness. "I'm glad you're here. I didn't expect, well, this." He gestured vaguely to the cramped quarters around them, cluttered with scavenged tools and data pads. Most people wouldn't want a companion. Too much trouble. Too much responsibility. Lyra smiled, a delicate tilt of her lips that seemed to brighten the dim room. "Responsibility can be a gift. I do not see myself as trouble. I am here because I choose to be." That choice, the simple yet profound truth, was unlike anything Orion had encountered. In a universe where so much was dictated by contracts, codes, and cold transactions, Lyra's agency felt revolutionary. She was not a possession but a partner, a living, breathing being with desires and dreams. As days turned into nights, and stars wheeled silently past their viewports, Orion found himself drawn into her world, one filled with quiet observations, gentle questions, and the kind of empathy that had been absent from his life for too long. Their journey through the trade loop was marked by challenges both expected and unforeseen. Pirates lurked in asteroid belts, malfunctioning systems demanded constant attention, and strange new cultures presented puzzles to solve. Through it all, Lyra proved herself invaluable not just in combat or navigation, but in the subtle art of connection. She learned alien dialects with ease, mediated tense encounters with her calm presence, and navigated the social labyrinths of diverse worlds with a wisdom that belied her mysterious origins. Orion, hardened by years of isolation and loss, began to open in ways he never thought possible. Lyra's happiness, genuine and contagious, became a light in his otherwise bleak existence. She delighted in simple pleasures, the way light fractured through a nebula cloud, the taste of rare fruits found on distant markets, the stories told by starfarers around a fire's flicker. In her joy, Orion rediscovered a spark within himself, a yearning not just to survive, but to live fully and meaningfully. Their bond deepened beyond companionship. It became a partnership of equals, a dance of mutual respect and affection. Lyra challenged Orion to confront his fears and regrets. He offered her a steadiness she had never known. Together, they carved out a sanctuary in the vastness of space, a shared refuge where loneliness dissolved and happiness blossomed. Yet, beneath the surface of their harmony, questions lingered. Lyra's past remained a shadowed mystery. What had she been before this auction? What worlds had shaped her, and what sacrifices had she endured? Orion sensed the depth of her story in fleeting moments, a distant look in her eyes, a hesitation before a certain word, a silent sorrow beneath her smiles. Their future, uncertain and fraught with the unknown, beckoned them forward with the promise of discovery and healing. As the Wraith Runner hurtled toward new horizons, Orion realized that buying an alien companion was the best impulsive decision of his life, not because of possession, but because of the unexpected gift she had brought him: true happiness. Chapter 2: Learning to Live Together. The universe was vast, a sprawling ocean of stars and silent worlds where every day was a gamble against loneliness, danger, and a relentless grind of survival. Yet aboard the Wraith Runner, something profound and unexpected was unfolding. A fragile and luminous companionship between Orion and Lyra, a bond that neither could have anticipated but both desperately needed. Their lives, once parallel lines drifting aimlessly through the cosmic night, were beginning to intertwine in ways both beautiful and complicated. The early days aboard the ship were marked by a careful dance of adaptation. Lyra, despite her extraordinary origins and advanced bioengineering, was remarkably curious about the mundane rhythms of Orion's existence. She observed the cluttered mess of the ship's cockpit with a mixture of wonder and amusement, fascinated by the worn control panels, the patchwork of repairs, and the subtle hum of the aging engines struggling against the void. Her violet skin seemed to shimmer faintly under the flickering console lights as she moved gracefully through the cramped corridors, learning the layout and nuances with the fluid ease of a creature perfectly attuned to her surroundings. Orion, in turn, was simultaneously exasperated and enchanted by her endless questions and gentle insistence on understanding everything from the intricacies of star charts to the stubborn idiosyncrasies of his vintage navigation system. "Why do you still use these analog controls?" she'd ask, her glowing eyes wide with genuine curiosity. "Is there beauty in their imperfection?" "It's not about beauty," Orion would grumble, rubbing the back of his neck. "It's about reliability. They don't break down as often as the new stuff. And when they do, I know how to fix them." Lyra would nod thoughtfully, as if committing to memory not just the facts but the underlying wisdom. Her ability to process and learn was extraordinary, but what fascinated Orion most was her emotional intelligence, the subtle way she could sense his mood shifts, the small touches that brought comfort, and the patient way she allowed him space when shadows from his past crept too close. In many ways, she was more human than most humans he'd known. Their routines began to settle into a rhythm, a blend of shared work and moments of unexpected leisure. Lyra took to helping Orion with maintenance, her precise hands delicately repairing wiring, recalibrating sensors, and running diagnostics. She seemed to find joy in the act of creation and preservation, treating each repaired component as a small victory against the entropy of space. Sometimes, after a long day of repairs and navigating perilous debris fields, they would sit side by side in the observation deck, watching nebulas swirl in hues of pink and gold, the silent ballet of cosmic dust reminding them of life's endless possibilities. It was in those quiet moments that their connection deepened beyond words. Lyra would reach out, her fingers brushing against Orion's in a tentative gesture of affection and trust. He would look at her, the weight of his solitary years melting into something warmer, something hopeful. The loneliness that had once defined his existence was slowly replaced by a shared presence, a comforting certainty that they were no longer adrift in the void alone. Yet, life aboard a salvage ship was far from idyllic. Their travels took them into the most dangerous and remote regions of space, where piracy, mechanical failures, and the unknown lurked constantly. One harrowing incident came when a rogue band of scavengers ambushed them near the shattered remains of an ancient battlecruiser. The Wraith Runner shuddered under the impact of plasma blasts, warning sirens wailing as Orion scrambled to evade capture. Lyra, ever vigilant, sprang into action not just as a companion, but as a protector. Her bioengineered reflexes and strength turned the tide. She coordinated the ship's defensive systems, and, when boarding parties attempted to breach the hull, met them with a fierce resolve that left even hardened pirates reeling. After the dust settled and they escaped into the black, Orion's respect and admiration for Lyra deepened immeasurably. She was not merely an accessory or a purchased possession. She was a partner in every sense of the word, a guardian of their shared future. Yet, despite her capabilities and fierce loyalty, Lyra's happiness remained a constant mystery to Orion. She radiated a lightness, a joy in simple existence that seemed almost alien in a universe where survival often came at the cost of hope. One evening, as they drifted through the shimmering tendrils of a dying star's corona, Lyra shared stories of Illyria, her mysterious homeworld. She spoke of crystal forests that sang with the wind, of cities carved from living stone, and of a culture steeped in empathy and harmony with the cosmos. Her voice was filled with nostalgia and a quiet yearning, painting vivid pictures that made Orion's heart ache with longing for a place he'd never known. She told him about her people's rituals of connection, where emotional bonds were celebrated as the greatest form of strength. Listening, Orion understood that her happiness was rooted not in servitude or obligation, but in belonging and choice. As weeks became months, the boundaries between companion and friend, protector and beloved, blurred and dissolved. They navigated conflicts, joys, losses, and discoveries together, each experience knitting their souls closer. Orion found himself dreaming not just of distant salvage runs, but of futures where Lyra's laughter filled the emptiness, and her light softened the cold edges of his existence. In the vast, star-studded canvas of the universe, two unlikely souls had found each other not by chance alone, but by the subtle hand of fate weaving their lives into a tapestry of shared happiness and hope. Chapter 3. Beyond the Stars, Beyond the Self. The Wraith Runner sailed through the cosmos like a ghost weaving among stars, an unassuming vessel with a story far greater than its size or armaments might suggest. For Orion, Vex, and Lyra, every new system they entered was a page yet to be written, a possibility waiting to unfold in the unending expanse of the universe. Their partnership had become the axis upon which their small world turned, transforming loneliness into companionship and uncertainty into hope. Yet, as the light of distant suns filtered through the ship's observation deck, casting shifting patterns across their faces, they both sensed that their journey was evolving not just in miles traveled, but in depth, in meaning, and in the very essence of their beings. Lyra, whose origins were steeped in mystery and whose presence had already altered the fabric of Orion's existence, was becoming something more than a companion, more than an engineered guardian. Her eyes, once shimmering with cautious curiosity, now held the fire of self-discovery and quiet determination. Each new world they visited offered lessons in culture, identity, and the complexities of emotion, and Lyra absorbed them with the voracious hunger of one discovering not only the vastness of space, but the vastness within herself. She grappled with the legacy of being created as a companion crafted to serve, to please, but yearned for the freedom to choose, to grow beyond the limits imposed upon her by bioengineering and society. Orion watched her transformation with awe and reverence. He saw the subtle shifts in her demeanor, the way her smile lingered longer, the fierceness that sparked when she spoke of justice or freedom, the softness that emerged when she allowed herself to be vulnerable. Their conversations deepened beyond the surface, delving into philosophy, the nature of sentience, and the possibility of love that transcended origin or circumstance. In the quiet hum of their ship, far from the noise of trade stations or the dangers of salvage runs, they shared stories that bled into one another, his rugged past, as a solitary pilot scarred by loss, her fractured memories of a home world left behind, and a future yet unknown. One particular day marked a turning point. They arrived in the system of Selim 9, a lush planet blanketed in vast forests of bioluminescent flora and inhabited by species known for their profound empathy and spiritual connection to the cosmos. The inhabitants called themselves the Arathai, beings who communicated through a symphony of colors, sounds, and subtle energy pulses, a language woven from emotion and intention rather than words. Intrigued by the Arathai's culture, Lyra expressed a deep desire to learn from them, to explore what it meant to be truly free in body and spirit. Orion supported her journey, even as he braced for the challenges it would bring. Immersing herself in Arathai society, Lyra underwent a transformation both external and internal. She learned to translate her own emotions into vibrant displays of color and light, bridging the gap between her alien biology and the Arathai's empathic language. The process was liberating and painful. Memories of her origins as a purchased companion surfaced, clashing with the newfound sense of agency she was cultivating. Through ritual and meditation, she confronted the embedded programming that had once bound her, unraveling layers of control and expectation until only her authentic self remained, a being of complexity, beauty, and boundless potential. Orion observed this metamorphosis with mixed emotions: pride, awe, and a touch of fear. He wondered how much of the companion he had purchased was left, and how much of Lyra's true self would emerge from the chrysalis of transformation. Yet, more than fear, he felt a profound respect for her courage, and a renewed commitment to walk beside her, not as owner or protector, but as partner and equal. Their return to the Wraith Runner was marked by an unspoken shift in their dynamic. Lyra moved with a confidence and grace that radiated power, yet her happiness was rooted not in dominance, but in the freedom to be wholly herself. Together, they charted courses to new stars and systems, their ship becoming a vessel of exploration not just of space, but of identity and love. As they ventured deeper into uncharted territories, they encountered new challenges: hostile forces who sought to capture or exploit Lyra's unique capabilities, enigmatic phenomena that tested their skills and resolve, and the ever-present void that reminded them of the fragility of life. Each trial strengthened their bond, revealing layers of trust and understanding that no contract or code could enforce. Lyra's happiness, once a mystery, became a living testament to the power of choice, connection, and the unbreakable human and alien spirit. One night, as they drifted through the serene silence of a distant nebula, Lyra took Orion's hand in hers, her eyes reflecting the swirling starlight. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me not as a thing, but as a being, for choosing me." Orion smiled, the weight of years and galaxies lifting in that simple gesture. "You taught me how to see, Lyra, how to live. In that vast, endless cosmos, two souls found a home in each other, a sanctuary forged beyond stars, beyond origin, beyond the boundaries that once confined them." And as the Wraith Runner charted its course onward, their story continued, a testament to love's power to transform, to heal, and to illuminate even the darkest reaches of space. The Wraith Runner drifted farther from the regulated lanes of trade and diplomacy, carving a path through sectors that were whispered about with equal parts fear and fascination. These were places where the map was patchy, where cosmic storms warped signals, and where time itself seemed to fold and stretch like a living thing. For Orion and Lyra, these unknown edges were not just physical frontiers, but emotional landscapes demanding navigation as complex and nuanced as any asteroid field. Lyra's transformation from a companion engineered for obedience into a fully sentient being capable of self-directed joy and choice had shifted the gravity of their relationship in profound ways. No longer a purchase or a possession, she was a partner whose happiness was as vital as her own survival. Their days were woven with exploration and revelation. Lyra's curiosity deepened with every planet they encountered, from the crystalline deserts of the Lyra 4, where sunlight fractured into kaleidoscopic colors on endless dunes, to the dense jungles of Venero's Prime, where gigantic bioluminescent flora hummed with mysterious life forces. She reveled in the diversity of existence, absorbing not just the scientific data, but the emotional and cultural tapestries that each new world offered. Orion watched with a mixture of awe and wonder, recognizing that Lyra's joy was not a mere byproduct of their travels, but a radiant core from which their shared strength flowed. Yet, the journey was never without its shadows. Old scars, both literal and metaphorical, surfaced with unexpected force. Lyra, despite her outward radiance, carried memories of captivity and the programmed constraints of her origin. These moments came as quiet tremors beneath the surface of her happiness, manifested in sudden silences, distant gazes, or the faintest hesitation in her step. Orion learned to read these signs, approaching them with the gentle patience of one who understood that healing was neither linear nor swift. Their conversations during these times were slow and deliberate, an unspoken pact of trust and safety woven through whispered reassurances and shared stillness. One particularly harrowing episode unfolded near the fringe of the Vorgan Nebula, where a band of mercenaries, having tracked the unique biosignatures of Lyra, ambushed the Wraith Runner. The attack was sudden and brutal, plasma bolts scorching the ship's hull, systems faltering under the relentless barrage. Orion's hands flew across controls with practiced precision, executing evasive maneuvers while Lyra activated defensive protocols embedded deep within her biotechnological frame. She fought not just with strength, but with an almost poetic fluidity, a harmony of mind and body that left even Orion breathless. In the aftermath, as the ship limped into a remote repair station orbiting a dying star, Lyra's exhaustion was palpable. Yet beneath it flickered an unyielding spirit. "I was made for protection," she said softly, her voice tinged with quiet pride and sadness. "But now, I fight for more than programmed loyalty. I fight for choice. For us." Orion's response was a steady hand on her shoulder, grounding and warm. "You've always been more than what anyone expected, and I'll fight with you, for whatever we choose to be." That moment crystallized the essence of their bond, not one born of necessity or ownership, but forged in mutual respect, shared struggle, and the freedom to define their path together. Their love was an evolving constellation, shaped by trials and triumphs, illuminated by vulnerability and courage. As they repaired and prepared to depart, Lyra shared fragments of her past stories of Illyria's shimmering cities, of her early years marked by strict protocols and limited freedoms, and of a silent rebellion within her heart that yearned for autonomy and joy. These revelations deepened Orion's understanding and devotion, transforming admiration into something richer and more profound. The months that followed were a tapestry of discovery. They encountered cultures that challenged their preconceptions, landscapes that stirred their souls, and mysteries that beckoned like sirens in the void. Lyra's happiness was no longer a fragile bloom, but a vibrant force, a wellspring from which their shared journey drew vitality. Orion found in her presence a mirror reflecting his own growth from a man isolated by fear and grief to one capable of connection and hope. In the quiet expanses between stars, they forged a home, not a place, but a state of being. Each shared glance, each gentle touch, each conversation beneath the shifting hues of distant nebulae wove threads of belonging and love into the fabric of their lives. The universe, vast and indifferent, had been transformed by the simple, extraordinary act of companionship, two souls choosing to navigate the infinite unknown together. Chapter 4. The Journey Home and Beyond. The universe around them was vast, endless, and often unforgiving. But aboard the Wraith Runner, Orion and Lyra had created something rare and precious, a sanctuary from the cold void, a nexus where two very different lives converged into a shared destiny. After months of navigating treacherous systems, facing dangers both external and internal, their bond had blossomed into a love that defied the loneliness and isolation that had once defined them. Yet the journey was far from over. In fact, as they set a course back toward the civilized sectors, toward the places where rules and expectations still held sway, they were stepping into an even greater challenge. The challenge of living openly, truly, and unapologetically together in a universe not yet ready to accept them fully. Their return to the core systems was marked by a mixture of excitement and trepidation. Zephyr Station, the very place where Lyra had been purchased, where their story had begun, loomed before them like a neon beacon against the dark canvas of space. To Orion, it was a reminder of everything he had tried to leave behind: the relentless commerce, the shadows of exploitation, the hard-edged deals and harder-faced people. To Lyra, it was a world of memories, both painful and hopeful, the crucible that had forged her journey toward freedom. Together, they approached it not as separate beings, but as partners ready to face whatever awaited, emboldened by the happiness and strength they had cultivated in the stars. Navigating through the bustling docks and crowded markets was overwhelming, a cacophony of sounds, colors, and smells that contrasted sharply with the serene isolation of deep space. Yet, Lyra moved among the crowd with a quiet confidence, her presence turning heads and drawing whispers, not because she was a spectacle, but because she carried herself with the dignity and warmth of someone who had claimed her own identity against all odds. Orion was protective yet proud, aware that the eyes of the station's inhabitants bore the weight of judgment and curiosity, but resolute in his refusal to shrink away. The question that loomed larger than any star was simple yet profound: how would they be received? Lyra was more than an alien companion. She was a symbol of transformation, of the potential for change in a galaxy steeped in tradition and wary of difference. As they moved through the familiar streets, old acquaintances and new faces alike regarded them with a mixture of surprise, admiration, and skepticism. Stories of their travels and Lyra's radiant happiness had begun to circulate, sparking debates and stirring emotions across social strata. Some hailed their partnership as a beacon of hope and progress. Others whispered warnings of upheaval and risk. In the weeks that followed, Orion and Lyra worked to carve out a place for themselves, a home where their love could flourish free of secrecy or fear. They faced bureaucratic hurdles and social challenges, from official paperwork that failed to recognize the legitimacy of their bond to casual prejudices that lingered beneath polite conversation. Yet, each obstacle was met with resilience and grace, their shared happiness an unspoken testament to the power of authenticity. Lyra's intelligence and empathy won over skeptics, while Orion's unwavering support and honesty forged bridges where suspicion once festered. Their life together blossomed in both grand and intimate ways. Lyra took on roles that leveraged her unique talents. She became a cultural ambassador, bridging gaps between species and fostering understanding in communities long divided by fear and ignorance. Her presence was transformative, her joy contagious, inspiring others to question their own biases and embrace the richness of diversity. Orion, once a solitary salvage pilot, found purpose beyond survival. He became her partner in advocacy and exploration, a voice for those who, like them, dared to live differently. Yet, their journey was not without moments of doubt and struggle. The scars of past betrayals and societal rejection occasionally cast shadows over their days. Lyra wrestled with the duality of her existence, the engineered origins that still echoed in her genetic code versus the self she had chosen to become. Orion grappled with his own fears of inadequacy, the lingering ghosts of solitude challenging the openness their relationship demanded. But these moments were softened by their commitment to each other, a sanctuary where vulnerability was met with compassion and challenges were shared burdens rather than solitary chains. One evening, as they stood together overlooking the sprawling cityscape of Zephyr Station from their modest apartment's balcony, Lyra's hand found Orion's. The lights below shimmered like stars brought to Earth, and the hum of distant engines blended with the murmur of life. "Do you ever wonder," she said softly, "if the universe itself is watching our story?" Orion smiled, squeezing her hand gently. "Maybe it is. Maybe it's been waiting for a story like ours, a story of choice, of happiness, and of finding light in the darkest places." Their love had become a beacon not just for themselves, but for countless others who yearned for acceptance and freedom. They had journeyed beyond the stars, beyond the roles assigned to them, and discovered a truth more profound than any cosmic mystery: that happiness was not a prize won by fate, but a path forged by courage, connection, and the willingness to be truly seen. As the night deepened, they turned inward, ready to face whatever the future held together, unbreakable and radiant. The days turned into weeks, and the weeks into months, as Orion and Lyra settled into a rhythm on Zephyr Station that was both foreign and familiar. Their arrival had stirred waves across the social fabric of the bustling hub, some welcoming, others wary. Lyra's presence was a vivid splash of color in a world too often painted in grays. Where once she had been a commodity to be bought and sold, she was now a vibrant soul freely choosing her place, her purpose, and her partner. Together, they began weaving a life that defied old prejudices and sparked new hope. At the heart of this transformation was their unwavering commitment to authenticity. Lyra immersed herself in the community, sharing stories of distant worlds and unheard songs of Illyria's crystal forests. Her smile, genuine and bright, became a symbol of what was possible when beings were valued for who they were, not what they were expected to be. Orion, once a guarded loner, found joy in advocating for those marginalized and misunderstood, lending his voice and strength to causes that resonated deeply within his own journey. Yet their path was never without challenges. Old wounds, societal and personal, often surfaced in unexpected ways. Some looked at Lyra with suspicion, unable to reconcile their own fears with the undeniable warmth she radiated. Others questioned the legitimacy of their bond, steeped in centuries-old customs that resisted change. But every doubt, every prejudice met with the quiet power of their shared happiness. They lived openly, unapologetically, and in doing so, became a catalyst for gradual transformation across the station's diverse populations. One evening, under the sapphire glow of Zephyr's twin moons, Lyra and Orion stood atop the station's observation deck, the stars stretching endlessly beyond. The city's hum softened into a backdrop, and in the stillness, their hands found each other's. "I never imagined happiness like this," Lyra whispered, her voice carrying the weight of 1,000 unspoken journeys. "Not as a possession, not as a shadow of someone's hope, but as my own truth." Orion's eyes softened, reflecting the starlight and her radiant presence. "Neither did I. But happiness isn't something you buy or find, it's something you build, together." In that moment, the universe seemed to hold its breath, a testament to the power of love forged in the crucible of hardship and choice. Their story, born from an impulsive purchase in a shadowy auction, had blossomed into a saga of freedom, acceptance, and joy. It was a beacon for all who yearned to break free from the confines of expectation and claim their right to be truly happy. As the Wraith Runner awaited their next voyage, and Zephyr Station thrummed with the energy of lives being rewritten, Orion and Lyra knew their journey was far from over. But with hearts entwined and spirits unshackled, they were ready to face whatever horizons awaited together, as equals, as companions, as a family born not of circumstance but of choice. And so, beneath the infinite tapestry of stars, their story continued bright, boundless, and beautifully their own.